Good morning to some of us and good afternoon to others. Welcome to the virtual side event of the 54th session of the Commission on Population and Development. The side event is titled Towards Full Occupational Freedom of Women, Legal and Social Aspects of Domestic Care and Work. The event is organized by the Ordo Iuris Institute for Legal Culture from Poland and co-hosted by Family Watch International and Women of the World platform. My name is Filip Furman. I am a director of the Center for Social Sciences and Bioethics of the Ordo Iuris Institute. Before we start, please let me give you some short introduction to the subject we'll be talking about. Unpaid domestic care and work, most often, but not only, performed by women, is an extremely important contribution to the development of society. As shown by the calculations of numerous experts, this work generates 3 times more profit for the global economy than the tech industry. For example, according to the 2019 Oxfam report, women's unpaid work generates 10.8 trillion annually for the global economy. A significant part of persons at some stage of their lives undertake unpaid domestic work, in particular in the field of care, raising and education of their children, and taking care of the household. Very often it is the result of their own decision. Especially mothers of young children often declare their willingness to partially or completely stop their professional work for childcare at some stage of their lives. But despite this, unpaid domestic work is still ignored by the legal and economic systems of many countries. As a result, those undertaking it have to deal with numerous problems, such as economic difficulties and insufficient state support. This also influences negative stereotypes towards people performing unpaid domestic work, which results in discrimination and social exclusion. So the aim of today's event is to start a discussion, the result of which would be to define what actions should be taken to develop an international and national policy oriented towards systemic recognition and support of persons, especially women, performing unpaid work in order to combat this discrimination and poverty in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. Due to the fact that we have a lot of experts with rich curriculum, I would not introduce everyone at once. I will introduce everyone at the time when I will be asking questions. So let's start. In the first part of our discussion, we'll focus on social issues. We'll be discussing the issue of domestic care and work, its impact on society and social need for this work, for the structure of society, for its consistency and lasting. So first, I would direct the question to Professor Michalski. You are an experienced researcher, both from the perspective of cultural studies, family studies, ethics, but also economics. I was wondering, could you give us a brief overview on the importance of domestic care and work, not only for creating an environment for the economic development of the country, but also for the family life and development of the society as a whole?
Hello and good morning, good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you and share some thoughts and reflections on this very, very important topic, in my opinion, and the topic that is still neglected. So I especially appreciate and congratulate the organizers that they have chosen the topic and they have gathered us to reflect on it. So first of all, looking from the socioeconomic and sociocultural perspective, I would say, so I would describe the problem that we have, first of all, I think starting from the end, because I think the end is really clear for the situation that we have, that we are societies, and I'm thinking mostly about the Western developed countries, but not only. It's not only the problem of the Western developed countries, the problem of demography and aging and shrinking population, which is to some extent influenced by the situation that we have with the unpaid work. That the unpaid work is not so popular. It's not a popular and attractive lifestyle, and this means that people marry less often, people become parents less often, and as a result, we get the population, the demographic crisis that we have. So I will try to think about this problem. I propose to look at two phenomena which I describe as double reinforcements. So, because in my opinion, they explain what happens. So, first of all, I'm talking about the double negative reinforcement, which refers to women who decide to become mothers and who decide or prefer to concentrate on housework, which means concentrating on this mostly care work connected with raising children. So what does it mean, what this double negative reinforcement means? This first negative reinforcement is an economic one, which means that these women are somehow discriminated in terms of economics when they are not able to earn their retirement the way that their colleagues at the same time are able. So this is the first negative reinforcement. And second one is sociocultural, which means that in our contemporary societies, motherhood, parenthood in general, but motherhood in this special case, most often that we are talking about, is not a popular, I would say, lifestyle, popular career, and not respected enough, not treated as a really successful chance for the individual to find happiness and self-realization. So this is this first double negative reinforcement, which refers to unpaid work, to women who become mothers and prefer to concentrate on housework. And at the same time, we have this double positive reinforcement. And here we also have, first one is economic, because women who decide, and of course it also refers to men, but it's not that clear everywhere, but we talk about women today. So this first positive reinforcement refers to those women who decide not to become mothers, who decide to become childless, and in their case they get, or they become, let's say, rewarded by market economy with the possibilities, opportunities to develop their career, to become, to earn more, and so on and so on. For example, to have the continuity of their career. And the second positive reinforcement is the same, as similar as in this first case, this positive sociocultural reinforcement, which means that in this popular culture, in this, let's say, sociocultural imagination, there is unfortunately this kind of cult of successful, rich individual. At the same time, this individual is independent, is free from different obligations, is always, let's say, beautiful, fit. And we who are parents, we all know that in case of parenthood, it's not able to be fit, beautiful, in terms of outlook all the time. So we have, as a diagnosis, I would offer these two double reinforcements, which in my opinion, somehow explain the problem we have. When if I would be asked what are the other reasons or explanations of this situation, that more and more less and less often this unpaid work as a career is undertaken. And it's quite interesting because in Europe, we have when it comes to research, we have the situation that for Europe, there is 26% of women who would prefer to stay at home and decide to choose this work, this homework, which I personally believe and strongly recommend that we should call it work. So 26% of women would prefer this kind of lifestyle if they would be able to organize it, if the conditions would be suitable. So what are the other elements of this puzzle? First of all, I would point at the issues connected with the social status and sociocultural status of marriage and family, and mainly I think here about the stability of marriage. I think one of the challenges in this area, and in my opinion, it's one of the explanations why this is so like this, is that the foundations, the legal foundations of marriage and family stability are somehow communicating that, marriage and family life, it's a risky business. And I think it's especially for women who, as we know from other research, that in case of divorce, they are those mostly disadvantaged group when they become single and when they become single mothers. So I think this is one of the main issues that I would really rethink, reflect on as a group of experts, and I think institutions which have some kind of influence on this thing. And in my opinion, this situation, this whole situation with the legal foundations, legal security, I would say, with some kind of issues like divorce as a really easy, available thing. So in my opinion, this whole crisis of unpaid work calls or shows or indicates some kind of crisis of community in terms of stability, trust, and solidarity. Because when we, for example, look at this issue of single mothers and their disadvantaged situation in terms of economics, this shows that this is not a solidarity in action because, most of the burden in terms of divorced parents is put on women. And making a step back, I would say that I would strongly recommend rethinking divorce and accessibility of divorce, because in my opinion, this would be my conclusion. This means for me a really serious source of distrust in our society, and this distrust, in my opinion, explains the problem, for example, of decreasing number of marriages and decreasing number of parents, with, of course, decreasing number of children being born. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. That is a very interesting perspective. I really regret, due to limited time, I'm not able to ask additional questions, but the few last of your sentences were particular interest for me, especially how the cultural pattern changed due to this distrust to the institution of marriage. But maybe we will have time in the end of our discussion for the questions from the audience. But now I would like to direct a question to Mrs. Leonor Tamayo, President of the Professional for Ethics, and also a General Coordinator of Women of the World platform, privately a mother of 10 children. Mrs. Tamayo, let me say, you are a living example that raising children does not necessarily exclude people from a successful career, but indeed, people who perform these functions together, function of a person performing domestic care and work and an employee or employer, have much more obligations, much bigger burden lies on their shoulders. Don't you think that perceiving domestic care and work as somehow less valuable than a so-called regular job is just another way of creating glass ceiling for women?
Good morning to you all. Good afternoon here in Spain. Well, I have to make a remark to what you've just said. It is true that I have 10 children, but it is also true that I am one of these persons with full dedication to care and domestic work. It is true that I take part in this NGO. I am the coordinator of the platform, but this is a volunteer activity. So I am one of these women you are now talking about, one of these women with an unpaid domestic work with full dedication. So I'm very grateful that you organized this side event on this issue, because it is true what has been said before, and I'm sure it will be said later, that it is not recognized, it is not valued. Well, the thing is, what I see is that in the official documents, or in the well, in what it has been now on table is the Agenda 2030. Domestic care is mentioned just as a sort of automatic management, as if it was indifferent who performed it, or as a break or an obstacle to the professional development of women. It is important to take into consideration these issues, that, I mean, what is shown to the general public, because this is the only way in which we can actually approach the issue properly. Let's say, for an example, Agenda 2030 considers professional life as the only way for women to develop. There's no mention of the value or of bringing up children, nurturing, etc., for women, for their children, or the consequences for proper growth for the children. Of course, the social value of motherhood is not considered or mentioned, and the only way out it is offered is professionalization of care. That means not as moms staying at home, but taking children to kindergarten or wherever. And an important point is that one issue which is very commonly mentioned, which is the co-responsibility, is shown as a fight between sexes. That means domestic care is shown as a burden, and it is unfair that it falls only on women. So it is necessary that the weight is shared, because it is shown as a burden. It is not shown as a gift or as something positive. It is not considered that a woman could choose it, right? So if it is shown as a burden with a very heavy weight, then it is the rejection. I mean, it shows rejection. It produces rejection. There's why young people do not want to have any family responsibilities or get married or to have children. And of course, it does not refer to the importance of the roles of the father in the family. It's just that we have to share the weight of the burden. It's not that it is important. The role of the family is absolutely clear. It's absolutely important in the family and for the children. So I think that it's very important that we keep this in mind. The way the family, the role of the father, the motherhood is shown to the general public. Furthermore, it is widely known that domestic care represents around 30%, I think, of the GDP, but it's been excluded from the national accounts system. Therefore, what a home is considered as unproductive, and parents obviously are considered as unemployed. So then we go back to what's been said before. There's no social consideration. Well, I think it is important that seeing what is shown to the general public, what is the social environment or to this domestic care, I will propose to focus on building in positive. That means following our own agenda, convey the value of and the truth about motherhood and dedication to the family. That means spread a message of truth and values, and not just keep fighting against what is opposite or what is the contrary, because this is so exhausting and also boring and depressing. And also very important, focus on new generations, which means university and the social networks. These new generations, they have to know and value the truth of family happiness and family life. I am one of these 26% that was mentioned before that chose. I used to be a teacher, and I stopped working when I had my fifth child. I wanted to be at home. I wanted to be with them. I wanted to see them growing. So I actually chose it. Of course, there's many ways of practical proposals. I suppose that many proposals are going to be set on the table here. Perhaps I will just focus on one in case it's okay. It's like the treatment of the term exclusive dedication to the family as a job category. This actually can be done following a recommendation of the European Parliament in one of the resolutions some 5 years ago, in which they suggest introducing credits for care. So these would allow mothers who have stayed at home partial or very few years or many years or whatever, get a retirement or get have some improvement, get tax reducers for companies who have moms who have been outside from work, go back again, which is very difficult, and it's one of the most important aspects which is not considered. You can be with your family for some time, but then you want to get back, and this is so difficult, and we have to focus there. So these credits for care can have these tax reductions for companies that hire moms after a period of leave. Well, these things, so I think it can be considered. This is very important, and it's not my invention. It's been said in the European Parliament, so it's not something strange. That is one of my proposals. I'm sure there are going to be many more, and we have a wide list of proposals or all sorts of proposals, but I don't want to extend from the time limit, so I will just stay there. Please keep in mind what we're fighting. Keep in mind what is the social environment, what is the ideas that young people have in their minds, what are they growing up with. Keep that in mind, and keep that in mind when we decide or decide our campaigns or actions or any kind of social work or political or economical or legal work. So that's it. And please keep positive, show the happiness and the truth of family life. That's it.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Tamayo, for this statement and this example of your happiness. Some of the things you said connects perfectly with the third question I wanted to ask in this panel, because we are talking about the impact of domestic care and work on the society as a whole. But shouldn't we also take reversed perspective? I mean, how the conditions of modern societies influence the family affairs, the whole domestic life and human relationship. And here I would like to ask Professor Scott Yenor. Professor, you are not only father of 5, so you know the issues we're discussing from practice, but you are a professor of political sciences. You are also into similar, I believe, subjects in the studies you conduct and books you write. For example, you are an author of the book Recovery of Family Life, Exposing the Limits of Modern Ideologies, which I actually recently read. I got it here in Poland. So I found out that in your comprehensive research, you addressed various factors negatively influencing modern families. What do you think? Is the situation where a job done mostly, but obviously not only, but mostly by women in their homes, for their families, for their children, for the development of future citizens, is not recognized as such? It's not recognized as a job equal or at least equal to other occupations. Could that be one of the factors negatively influencing modern families as well?
Yes, and thank you all for having me. It's very early here in Boise, so but I'm hoping my internet connection stays up. So I really enjoyed the first two presentations, and you know, in a way, I want to ask maybe a question that's implicit in what we're talking about, which is, are we facing an economic problem, or are we facing a spiritual problem? And if we all agree that we're facing some sort of spiritual problem, then I wonder if coming up with an economic solution is going to help us solve it. And I wonder how much our understanding of what we're doing when it comes to supporting care publicly with you know, payments of some sort is a sufficient answer, or if it covers it. And so I'm going to just maybe go back to a diagnosis and then maybe a prognosis. So, you know, here in the United States, we're just beginning to, I would say, self-consciously go about deliberating publicly about child assistance plans, ways of helping parents that I think have been present in Europe for much longer, and other parts of the world much longer, and we're just starting to deliberate about it. And the way we conceive of the problem is that people aspire to have this many children, but they only have this many children. So if we pay them, we can close this gap. I'm sorry, if I had 3 arms, it would be easier. But we can close this gap by filling in the resources that will make it easier to have the number of children that people aspire to. And this is the way we conceive of the problem. And I think that's an inadequate way of thinking about the problem. And if I can go back to my made up graph here for a second, the way I conceive of the problem is this: that people only want this number of children, but they should want this number of children, off the charts. And some people have actually accomplished this. So the question is, why do people only want 2.4 children instead of 4 children? And that way of conceiving of the problem actually, you know, might get at the root of it. Why do people want so few children? And let's put that in a different way. The things that we used to take for granted as a society are that people will marry, that people will have sex, that people will have children, and then the people will want to raise their children. And we had a whole legal and cultural regime around supporting those assumptions that we had. And what we're learning in our situation is that we can no longer take those things for granted. And now that we've brick by brick taken down the culture that used to support those assumptions, now we're having to, in the middle of a kind of societal revolution, try to rebuild that house or those bricks. And obviously paying for care is one of these unique reactions to this new situation that we are in this late modern time. But I think that's the disjunction. The disjunction is that we're answering this in order to build something up it no longer exists. We're hoping that we can simply supply care money or care pay in order to fill the gap. And when I think it's pretty clear that it's just a question of honor. How can motherhood and fatherhood and parenthood be honored in a late situation? How can and is payment going to be sufficient, or even really, is it even relevant to the question of honoring? And I really like what Leonore said. That is, it seems like we should be fighting for particular kinds of rights for we'll call them now discrete and insular minorities, who are actually in favor of seeking to make a subculture within our liberal hegemonic culture that is actually going to honor and support through different kinds of opinions, will honor and support marriage and family life. That is, and this is just all part of my larger point, which is answering a spiritual crisis with welfare programs isn't going to be a sufficient answer. And the question is, how do we honor? And right now, honoring really requires some sort of culture, some sort of mutual support. I think these things are backed up pretty nicely by statistics, but let me just tell a story quickly. I teach at a university and I have undergraduate students, and I have one particular undergraduate student. She's 21, she's married, and she's the only one she knows who is married. And that puts just tons of stress on it. And there's no way, even though she's in the perfect age to have children, that she's ready to do it. This is a cultural problem. It's not an economic problem. And so it seems to me that the focus needs to be on how to build that house back up and how to take seriously the threats to consistently honoring family life, motherhood, fatherhood, responsibilities, having children, and without, like I would say, reversing the dishonoring, nothing can be accomplished. And so that what that means, I think, in our particular case is finding space to indirectly support family life. That is, rolling back obscenity laws is more important, probably. I should say rolling back the deregulation of obscenity is maybe more important than actually finding support, financial support for the family. Making more opportunities for parents to have a direct power over their children's education might actually be more important than direct care support. Finding ways so that people can only work part-time or not work at all, but work part-time is, I think, the American way of thinking about this is also something that, we should consider. Because, so the obstacles are opinion-based, and without finding space, and actually, I should also say, attacking the ideologies that are cramping the space and taking the space away, is really going to be impossible to find any kind of an economic solution to this. So we're up against an ideology, and it has to be fought by fighting that ideology, not simply through any kind of economic support. So thank you guys for listening, and I appreciate everything that's been said and look forward to what everyone else is getting at.
Thank you very much, Professor. I must say, as a sociologist myself, I strongly agree with your point that the culture and the environment of the ideas that people live within is the most important thing, and it lays on the fundament of any policy. But still, the policies, the legal approach, and legal or state support is still one of the subjects of our discussion. So we'll be talking about it as well. So maybe it is a good time after this very full and understandable explanation. What is the most important? What is the basis? So it is a time to move the discussion a little bit towards economic, institutional, and legal issues. And this part would be led by Mrs. Karolina Pawłowska, a lawyer and director of Center for International Law of the Ordo Iuris Institute. Mrs. Pawłowska, I give you the voice.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, during the second panel of our discussion, it was mentioned by Dr. Furman, we would like to focus more on legal and economical aspects of domestic care and work, and especially focus on the international law context, because I think it is very, very important perspective in our discussion. And before I will pass the floor to our great panelists, I would like to add some introductory remarks on these issues. Introductory remarks that was prepared by me and Mrs. Anna Kubacka, who unfortunately due to the personal reasons cannot be here with us. First of all, I think that the occasion of 54th session of Commission on Population and Development, because of which we are gathered here today, is a great opportunity to discuss the topic of domestic care and work and its legal and economical aspects, because I think it is extremely important to discuss the sustainable development. I think that without taking into account the importance of domestic care and work, the importance of different perspectives, views, and approaches to self-development, we cannot talk about real sustainable development. And for me, one of the most important issues that happened at the international law level was the general recommendation number 70 of CEDAW committee from 1991, in which CEDAW stated clearly that domestic care and work should be included into the gross national product. And the committee, which is a very important body that was created in a binding treaty, very, very much emphasized the importance of the domestic care and work. Yet we can see that the discussion about the equality between men and women have gone into different and sometimes very surprising direction. Despite the fact that, as it was stated by CEDAW committee, that as it was stated by many economists, by many activists, social leaders, by many mothers and fathers, we can see that today's discussion on the equality between men and women totally ignores this very, very important aspect. Despite the fact that domestic care and work, as it was already stated, is generating billions of dollars to worldwide welfare, that is something that a lot of people, especially women, want to choose on some stage of their lives, that it is very important for the well-being of our society. It's totally ignored in many documents that are issued by international institutions. And I would like to especially emphasize here the narration that was for many years promoted by, for example, European Commission, that in its documents that were allegedly aiming to promote equality, especially strategies on equality between men and women, constantly stated that to achieve equality, there should be as many as possible women that are employed full time. Not only domestic care and work was totally ignored as an equal choice, but it was also very strongly, there was a strong pressure on forcing, I think it can be a good word, women to not work even on part-time basis. And I believe that this approach is hardly to be considered as an approach based on real women's perspective. In fact, this approach is discriminating and stigmatizing for different ways of life, different choices of life that women and men can choose. I believe that we should strongly emphasize that modern approach to equality between men and women should take into consideration the fact that domestic care is an equal choice for life career. It should be also strongly stated that modern mothers do not necessarily want to return to work as soon as possible, because in many researches, for example, by European Commission, by Eurostat, it was clearly stated that many women, after having a child, prefer to resign from paid work, even temporarily, or to perform it in a flexible way. I believe also that the main aim of family policies that should be conducted by our states, that should be also visible at this international level, is to create such conditions in which parents can freely, not being guided solely by economic reasons, decide to start or return to gainful employment. And it will be only possible if we will value the work of people taking care of home and raising children. And I think this is the main reason we have decided to organize this side event, because there is a lot of things that we should do to improve the situation of these people. And especially today, concerning all these issues on demographic crisis, this context should be taken into consideration while we are creating our policies on equality between men and women. And after this introductory remarks, I would like to pass the voice to our panelists. First of all, I would like to ask Mrs. Dorota Bojemska, a chair of Polish Council of Family, to say a few words on domestic care and work. I would just add that Mrs. Bojemska, besides the fact that is holding this position in our Council of Family, that is one of governmental bodies, is also a mother of 8 children and has a lot of experience in this area. So, Mrs. Bojemska, I will pass the floor to you. Okay.
Can I ask our technical support to help with this issue?
Yeah, I think that we have a pre-recorded statement by Mrs. Bojemska, and we have to.
Can we ask?
Okay. If we have problems, maybe.
Okay, please give us 30 seconds, and this will work. Fortunately, we are ready for this problem.
Thank you for your invitation for today's meeting. I have the honor of being the chair of the Family Council in the Ministry of Labor and Social Policy, a member of the National Council of the Association of Numerous Families 3+, and above all else, a mother of 8 children who has dedicated years to housekeeping, taking care of the children. That's why this topic is very close to my heart, and I'm happy that we are discussing it today. It's a very important matter, though I think still not represented that much, and based on really huge questions, ideas like justice, family, demography, and really, if we take a closer look, for example, at such words like economy, and we think of the etymology of this word, we see that it consists of 2 Greek terms, oikos, the house, and nomos, which is rule, a law. So from the very beginning, economy was about managing the household, the rules that govern it. And before it has grown and the way we see today as a science, it was mostly based on human functioning in its closest scale within the family. What is the place of housework in this sphere? Well, I would like to start with quoting a famous book. I'm sure you've heard of it, Alvin Toffler's The Third Wave. He writes, although the second wave civilization commanded housekeeping, those who did such work were not regarded highly. Housekeeping is a productive work, of decisive importance in life. It should be, therefore, considered a natural element of economic activity. In order to ensure the appropriately high status of housekeeping, housewives should receive a wage. Well, regardless if these are women indeed, men, single persons or groups who work together, we could also look for some other way to establish the economic value of such activity. These are very courageous, brave ideas, postulates. We do not speak today of paying a wage to women. However, we would like to have an answer to the question how to ensure a high status to housekeeping, to housework. How to make sure that a woman who decides to take care of her children or her child is not perceived as a person professionally passive. How to lift the status of such people and their work. These questions are above all else, can above all else be answered by what we've been speaking about today. That care, that work based on care is just a work. It's the same kind of labor as if it were done by some externally employed people. That's why we can consider care work, non-institutional care work, as something which is totally equal with something performed by institutions. It is important, especially important, because many non-governmental organizations from Poland and from abroad show clearly that the benefit enjoyed by the state because of housework equals roughly 1/3 of the national GDP. Oxfam, a famous humanitarian organization, says it's 3 times higher than what the technological industry produces. So it's a very important aspect of it. I would also like to point to another perspective of perceiving care work done by women mostly, which is taking care of small children. That we have to realize that we include within it also taking care of older people, the elderly, or disabled children. In particular, taking care of babies. That is something I want to focus on because it is also related with women's rights. We like to think about women's rights, and it would be good, therefore, to perceive taking care of a small child, of a baby, as an element of a woman's life history. A woman has the right to enjoy her maternity according to her own choice. If she wants to take care of her own children, she should enjoy the right, a guarantee, to be able to choose whether she decides to enjoy some institutional help or to do it by herself. It should be very clearly stated that this choice is free, so that everybody can see clearly that taking care of small children, staying at home with your own baby, is the same work as would be done in some other form, institutional or non-institutional. We can also say that it is perhaps the best possible form of childcare, but maybe this conclusion is going too far. The theory of attachment says that when the child is small, between the first and the third year of the child is the most important period of life, when the child grows its sense of security, discovering its identity, when the child discovers itself by being a separate person but belonging to a community. In this context, a child which feels all these external factors perceives itself as a benefit to the community. Therefore, coming back to Toffler, we can say that housekeeping is a productive work, decisive of many important aspects of life. In the life of the community, the smallest one, namely the family, we know, of course, that the family is a guarantee of the maintaining societies. A strong family means a strong society, not only in terms of biology, in terms of demography, which is quite obvious, bringing up new generations, but also in terms of culture. It's a conveyor belt for what is being transferred by the generations, the customs, the identity, all the cultural elements of a given community. The family, as said by James Hackman, is a producer of skills. It's a factory, manufacture of social competences. It is the family that prepares the children to function within a broader social context. In these aspects, thinking of the care performed by the mother of her own child, especially if we look at it from the perspective of the theory of attachment, it is of particular significance, and it also influences many aspects of its future life. It creates stronger bonds, it helps the child to be able to enter into deeper, stronger relationships with other people. We can also ask, what are the tools that might ensure a higher prestige, a higher social status of this work and people who perform it? Toffler mentioned wages for housewives. Is it something to ask for? It's a very brave movement, I agree. We also wonder that it might not necessarily be needed. I believe there are other tools that strengthen the family economically, giving the woman the ability to execute housework, housekeeping, like the 500 plus program that we have in Poland. It's a program that provides social security, financial security to numerous families. Each month, a family receives 500 Polish zlotys per every child in the family, which has helped lots of Polish families to escape poverty, to give them a stronger economic basis. Thanks to this, some women decided to stay at home and take care of their household and their children. Another important tool, especially in the symbolic manner, is the mother's pension, a mother's retirement program. This social tax will be paid to all women who have at least four kids. They will receive at least a minimal pension after they retire, simply based on the idea of social justice. If a woman has spent 12 years, at least 12 years, taking care of her children, bringing them up, taking care of the household, can enjoy at least a minimum retirement. At least it's a symbolic solution. We know it should be broader, but still, nonetheless, what is most important is the social education in this respect. Having discussions like the one we are having today, to speak of the possibilities on the one hand, and on the other, to bring back the proper place, the proper social status of housework. In the way we perceive it, we perceive the benefits it brings to the entire society. Then it should be a free, equal choice to every woman. And this is all I wanted to say today. I'm hoping for a longer, very interesting discussion in the further part of our conference. It's a very important topic, a very broad one. I hope we speak of it more and more often. And I would like that these topics enter the public debate, to seek for new solutions, to bring higher status to social work, to social housework. Thank you.
When the current government took office in 2010, it committed itself to trying to address these demographic issues, demographic problems. And when we drafted the new constitution refers to families as the basic cornerstones of society. We have relatively low fertility still, but we have the highest increase in the European Union in the last 10 years. So we started in 2010 with the all-time lowest figure, 1.23, which now is currently 1.55. But what is more interesting is that in average, Hungarians in the childbearing ages, according to our research of last year, would wish to have 2.37 children. So the gap may be closed if we manage to have more and more of these wanted children, which for whatever reason is not born to be born. What we can already state is that we have 115,000 children more due to this fertility increase of the last 10 years, which is more than the babies born in a regular year. So in 10 years, we managed to have 1 year extra amount of babies, which is already quite good. What we can say is that marriages are at historic high in Hungary. We did not have as many marriages since 1986. And what is also very, very nice to say and to state is that these marriages seem to be also lasting and stable, as we have the lowest figures of divorces since 1962. So we nearly have twice as many marriages in this last 1 decade, which we believe is very important. And why is marriage so important? We have partly discussed this already. If we ask young Hungarians what are the 3 most important factors in the decision on if they have a child or if they have an extra child, the first is the stability of partnership. So marriage is truly very important. The second one is stable employment. We in Hungary have 1 million Hungarians, nearly 1 million Hungarians more in work than 10 years ago. We are a country of less than 10 million. And the third one is to have an adequate home. So these are the 3 most important decisive questions. And on what can be done and what should be done in valuing parenthood and valuing motherhood, and what we believe is a positive way how Hungary actually addresses it. Well, what is more important, that contrary to many views expressed by, for example, unfortunately, the European Commission and many Western European political players, we value motherhood per se. So we believe that motherhood and parenthood, just because giving birth and raising children is an important asset to the society. It is not a missed opportunity. It is not a missed investment, as it is often stated by European documents, for example, that when a highly educated woman gives birth and stays home for longer than a couple of months, then it is a lost investment. It's not. It is certainly very important. We have heard about early bonding. We have heard about many other issues, whether it's important for the child. And I will name some of the statistics our institute has in this regard. So Hungary provides a real option to mothers. Any Hungarian mother may stay home 3 years with 1 child if she wishes to do so, and state support will be granted for that 3 years accordingly. So until kindergarten time, which is compulsory in Hungary, 3 years from the onset of the 3rd year of the child, education, kindergarten education in that sense is compulsory. But until that, it is possible to stay home with 1 child. You do not have to, of course. This is entirely the decision left to the mother, left to the family. A very, very well expanding network of nurseries, which are very much available and affordable, is available to parents. Also, there is an encouragement of returning to the labor market, either full-time or part-time. Since 2015, any mother after the child reaches the age of 6 months may return to employment and can keep the maternity benefits accordingly for the next 2.5 years, which also makes part-time work pay, which is also an issue that sometimes lower salaries around Eastern European, Central European countries did not make it worth to go back to the labor market part-time. because if you added up all the costs and all the issues around it, it might not have been the ideal solutions. So since 2015, mothers may return back to employment and keep the benefit, and without any limitations take up employment. Intergenerational solidarity is very important, I believe, in this whole question around unpaid work. We in Hungary also believe that the GDP would be roughly 25% higher if we would add up all the costs and benefits around unpaid work. But also keeping the care in family, in the wider family, is also very important. So intergenerational solidarity, we have one pension possibility, actually the only early pension possibility remaining in this country, is that any women with 40 years of work can go to retirement. It is not bound to children, but it is a great help, as this is also called as a so-called granny pension, that actually grandmothers who are roughly the age of 59, 60, 61, a couple of years earlier than normally, the pensionable age is 65 years of age, may go to retirement and help out with raising the grandchildren. Also, we have possibilities that grandfathers and grandmothers who are still in employment may take up parental leave instead of their children to take care of their grandchildren. So this is also a possibility, is also taken by many grandmothers and grandfathers. This is also possible for grandfathers as well. And the newest possibility is that we are supporting attic conversions, loft conversions, by a higher amount of money. So in case a large family would like to live together, if the young family moves in the attic and creates a separate apartment on top of the apartment of their parents, it is also something where, again, we can see that the large family lives together, they can support each other. And it is not only taking care of grandchildren, but also other way around. The care taking care of the elderly, taking care of the sick, of course, is much easier in that proximity. There are some targeted programs in Hungary where we are trying to help women, trying to help mothers, as we all know that they do face difficulties in the labor market throughout their career, because their career is interrupted with the periods of taking care of children. One is a unique Hungarian action, is that any women who gave birth to 4 children in their lifetime will be exempted from paying, or is already since 2020 exempted from paying any personal income taxes throughout their lifetime. This is a great help to and acknowledgement towards mothers who gave birth to 4 or more children. We also try to help well-educated women to receive their children, and to receive their children possibly at an early age. As we have also heard from other speakers today, one issue is that, yes, people, and also European and US people and youngsters would like to have more children than they do have. But one issue is that they start too late. So in case you have your first child in the mid-30s, you might very easily not have 2, 3, 4 children, even though if you may have wanted more. So one is that we are helping by taking into account the university studies when calculating the maternity benefits. So normally you would need in the last 1 year of Social Security contribution in order to receive the full amount. But in case of young, well-educated, we do take into account the university studies as well. So if you receive your first child, or any child actually, during your university studies or right after your university studies, you will be granted the entire amount and not just a limited one as previously. And another one is that we are reducing student loans of mothers. In case a mother receives a second child, the remaining payment of the student loan of that mother will be cut half, and 50% will be paid off by the state. And in case that mother receives a third child, the entire remaining amount will be taken over by the state. So this is again something where well-educated mothers may count on the help of the state. And finally, some figures which I believe is very important. First of all, when we ask Hungarians about how do they value and how do they see the question around unpaid work and actually work in families, 85% supports in Hungary the two-earner family, whereby 78% says that a stay-home motherhood should be treated equally to paid work. That is also very important. And 78% believes that children with young or mothers with young children should work part-time. That would be the most flexible and most usable option. There is a very strong opposition in Hungary of giving children into crash care under the age of 1. Practically, there are no children in Hungary younger than 1 year of age in crash care, and there is no public need for that either. And of course, what is certainly very important is how the society looks at motherhood and how the society looks at families. And we believe that that is exactly where we have developed the most in Hungary in this last 10 years. There is a constant feeling that actually we know that investing in families is investing in the country's future, is investing in the sustainability of public finances on the long run. And we also know that investing in people and investing in families also is a boost to internal consumption, which is also very important. So even if you look into the economies, we see that when we are granting more resources to the families, just like you in Poland do with the 500 plus, most of that money will remain in the respective countries. It will not be taken out as profit by international companies, but it will boost the internal consumption. It will also be good for restaurants, for touristic sector internally. So there are many ways of seeing that as an investment into the country's well-being on the long run. And as finally, not to overstep my time boundaries, to state that we see that the society started to value the families and also large families more and more. We see that there are so many actions and so many programs for family-friendly brands to be taken on by companies, because they see that as the families do have more resources available, it is also their interest, their legitimate economic interest to serve the needs of families. So that's what we see in restaurants, that's what we see in hotels, that's what we see by because of the large family car support, for example, in automotive dealerships, that actually it is very important for them to react to the possibility that families do have more resources, and these resources are spent, as I have said, internally and quite well. So I believe that what we certainly shall do is to continue on that path, to give more and more social value to motherhood, to families, and we ourselves, we do not want to be a country of less than 7 million. So if we do not do something against a quite low fertility, then that will certainly happen. We are a much smaller country than the US or Germany or even Poland with 10 million people. It is easily imaginable that the last one will have to put the lights out. So it is very important that we keep on incentivizing help towards the family. And it's not just economic help. The social standing is just as important. I would even say it is even more important, as we see that we have more and more public support for families, and by that we also have more and more economic prosperity in the country, and also we can state that within the families as well. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much for your statement. It was very interesting to hear on developments of Hungarian policies in this area. And I think that taking into account that you've managed to be very successful in this, it is a very, very interesting point of reference to other countries. So thank you very much for sharing with us this best practices and best experiences in this area to promote fertility and to value domestic care and work and motherhood and fatherhood. And now I would like to pass the floor to Professor Angela Gandra, Secretary for the Family at the Ministry of Family and Human Rights in Brazil. Professor Gandra, the floor is yours. Okay, thanks. Great. It's great to see you.
Wow, good morning here this morning to everyone. So happy to be here with you. Thank the other Yuris, Timek and Carolina for the invitation. I'd like to share the things we're doing in our government in another topic that is work-family balance that helps this topic too, no? So we are working in work-family balance since the beginning of the government. We have a special department in our secretariat focused on this topic. And we started to award the enterprises that are familiarly responsible since the beginning of this government. Also, we're trying to prove in the National Congress all the projects that helps maternity, that helps leaves the parents both, no, father and mother leaves, and with the National Congress. We also launched last year the National Strategy for Strengthening Family Bonds that guides the government from the inside and to the outside too. Our Constitution says that men and women have equal rights and duties at home. So it is written, but we have to go for it. No, because in Brazil we still have kind of a culture, no, or a deep culture, I would say, no, of machismo, and also it's hard to face co-responsibility, co-parenting, co-education, provisions, and so we are trying to bring this reality that is so. It's very efficacious for the home and also for the human being, the stability of the human being and also the society. We are trying also to sign the the ILO convention on, it's at 156 on equality and at the work, no, for the same rights for women and men, no, at work, and also bring women to the political life. We are trying hard, and we have already had some goals, no, achieved, but we see that the look of a woman in the political life means a lot because she has another perception, and it's a richness. So this helps also to strengthen this work-family balance with public policies. But this year, the last year, yes, no, but this year we thought we would like go for our normal public policies on this topic, but we have to keep on facing the challenge of pandemics. So we have three main points right now. No, first of all, the home office. The home office showed that it can be productive. In Brazil, it was not very common, super accepted. No, but now we could see that women can be productive, even men, no, very productive in home office. But we're trying to face the challenges of home office. That means to be able to have a free option. Some men and women they are comfortable in the situation, but some of them are not. So we have to have a free system to be able to choose this home office. Now, while here with kind of a flexibilization, we can choose. No, so this is interesting, but it has also to have a good division at home, and that's why we are helping the dialogue. No, so that we can build a good division with schedules, so that women and men can divide the home tasks, the home jobs. Because it's sometimes we could see in the beginning of the pandemics that women had to care for everything, and they have to call for the action, men for the action at home too. And it's important for a woman in home office to have her schedule to be able to dedicate herself to the work and then go back to the family. And we had some tips. We gave some tips. We're following this topic, giving tips. Healthy home office, because sometimes it happens that people start to have less mental health because of this stress. To work and take care at the same time in the same place. So freedom for the choices, and we're trying to accompany this too. The second challenge is the co-education. Some parents, we don't have the homeschool yet here. We're fighting for that. It's not a right for the parents yet, but we're trying to give them the protagonism of the education, and it's a good system of education, and we truly support it. Parents felt a vocation to homeschool too, or at least they could see during the pandemics the importance of being close to their children in their education, and that make them more secure, and also it's very, very important for the performance, for the scholar performance. So we're trying to also call for action, the parents, the men, the fathers, to accompany also the education. And this is very decisive for the children to go for a better performance at school. So, and also, the completely role of education, education and courtesy in human education, as Aristotle would say, the complete education. So we think this is very important to show how decisive is the both roles in children's education. And COVID brought this topic to the families, and many families realize how important is this role, and it awake people to parents to go for this education and not release or give to the schools, deliver to the schools. And the third thing is the strengthening of family bonds, that we think is very important. We have a program that is called Strong Families to discuss relationships, mainly now during the pandemics. It is culture. We have a culture. It's not easy to build this dialogue sometimes, but we want to build this co-sharing, the co-parenting through a dialogue. Not to imposing or not discussing, but to rescue this dialogue between men and women, and the share, at home, so that both of them can have, and their roles in society too. And we think that parents, fatherhood can play also special whole care, for the children, for the aged, as you were saying, fostering intergenerational solidarity, teaching their children with this capacity of taking care of aged too, and also we think this was a very important topic during the COVID too. We took these topics to the OECD this week, bringing family as a main topic for the enterprises, for example. Because we think these two pillars, first, sustainability of relationships inside the family, with the co-division, the co-responsibility, with parents at home, is very important to the second pillar, that is the economic projection of the family. So this month we are given an award to enterprises who had good initiatives in the pandemics to help this two pillars. And last week when we met like 70 enterprises, one of them, one woman started to cry, and she said, I have to thank a government that award us for the efforts, heroic efforts we had during the pandemics. For example, we did our best, first of all, to keep 600 employments for 600 families. So we think also that to keep the work during the pandemics is a way of supporting family too, and supporting this sustainability of relationships that sometimes are disrupted also because of economic problems. So we're trying to do both to our public policies. We think that family and work are the most precious treasures of the human being, anthropologically speaking. So we truly want to give the conditions for each family member to live their irreplaceable role at home and give their unique contribution to society in their professional life. So that's why we're especially working on this work-family balance. I would say even the other way around, family-work balance. Thank you so much. That's it.
Professor, thank you so much for your inspiring statement. It was great to hear it. And unfortunately, we are running out of time, so I will just pass the floor to our last but not least speaker, Dr. Imre Balachauze from Hungary, who is founder and vice president of the Family Science Alliance and founder and president of the Science for the Family Association. Thank you so much for being with us, and we are waiting to hear your thoughts on the issue of domestic care and work.
Okay, thank you for the possibility that I can be here, and it is a pleasure for me to take part of this conference. I think that several issues of this problem regarding the legal and social aspects of domestic care and work were already discussed. I would like to say only some focus points of the issue. One of them is, I think it's very important to make measurements about the asymmetry in couple relationships in families regarding this issue. So all of us knows that usually the women works much more at home than the man, and it would be nice to know the exact data about it. So to measurements, to make surveys, I think it's important. The second, which was already mentioned, that I think for women, the part-time work, the flexible working hours, are also crucial in this subject. And it is important that women after birth should not break out of their work. So I think the flexibility in working hours and the part-time work could help regarding this issue. Another one is the asymmetry in pension, that I think somehow it would be nice to reconsider the system of pension, because somehow this type of invisible work, and also that women who has children are worth officially less, so their pension is less, and which is, I would think, is unethical. So it should be somehow solved that this issue should be included in the pension. As I agree with everyone that most important, even in this topic, is to solve somehow to increase the stability of families. The stability of families can be increased with good marriages. So somehow we should try to find the ways how to increase the quality of marriage, the amount of marriage, and also that marriage is in time. So I think it would be very important to increase the level of couple relationship culture, which was destroyed in the last 50 years. And it is the basic reason of this, of many of these programs. So we should, I think, work on it to find the parameters which direct to the human flourishing of the individual, of the whole society. And I think that we should deal also with the topic of sexuality somehow, because the sexual culture is very selfish, I think, and we should change somehow it. Without solving this issue, most probably we cannot really increase the quality of good marriages and amount of good marriages. So perhaps this is that I, so to say, and I agree with all the speakers. So Balázs Molnár thought very well that what is the situation in Hungary. I agree with his all words. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much for your statement. I would like to once again thank all of you for being here with us today. And I believe that our today's discussion is a great starting point for making this topic of domestic care and work visible and heard on the international level. And this is why we were organizing this event during the CPD Commission, because we would like to speak loudly about how it is important to value domestic care and work, and how it is important to emphasize this topic in international documents, in international resolutions, to make the problems of women and men that are deciding to stay at home and taking care of their children, of their homes, visible at this international level of discussion. And I think what we have done today is really, really important for this issue. Thank you for all. We would like to thank you for all your inspiring speeches, for sharing with us your experiences, your personal experiences, your experiences as political and social leaders. I believe it is really, really something very, very important. Maybe you would like to add something, Dr. Furman?
No, all the speeches were outstanding. I am happy to participate and to organize such conference. I hope the subject, the topic will be discussed further after our conference on various fora. I also, right now, I think I can do the first call to all of our participants to work together, to work together on possible memorandum to the United Nations, but also to our countries, governments, that will concern support and recognizing of domestic care and work. I think that's all. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, and it's our obligation to end our meeting before the main session of CPD starts, which is about less than 10 minutes. So unfortunately, there's no time for question and answer sessions. But thank you very much once more. That's all.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.